All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Eli Beckman. I'm the mayor. We've also got our town manager, Todd Cusimano, on the line. We've got assistant town manager and town clerk, Rebecca Vaughn. We've got our public works director, RJ Suko. I know we've got some other department heads on the call. I think Adam Wolf, our director of planning and building, is on the line. We may at some point have our director of parks and rec come on too, if she's not already. So we've got a lot of staff here to help answer any questions that you guys had. I just want to open by acknowledging, obviously it's been a really difficult and upsetting couple of weeks for us on top of, what feels like a really difficult couple of months. Tough times in 2020, it seems. We are watching what's happening in the community. And, I think I just want to make sure everybody knows that we share the values of our community. We are hurting just like everybody else. And I think, I'm hopeful that what we're seeing is that as, the murder of George Floyd has really kind of catalyzed this public outcry. And it seems to me like that movement is starting to harden into resolve to make a real change and get something done and figure out what we can do to make our society more just and more equitable. I think that is, it's heartening to see that. And I just want everyone to know that, the town of Corte Madera, your mayor, your staff, everybody shares in that, that drive to actually make a change, to see improvements, to address the systemic racism that has been plaguing our country for literally since its beginning. It's a shame that it's gone on this long and that the situation has devolved to the point that it has, but I'm, pleased to see that it seems like people are finally, we're gaining a critical mass of people who are ready to do something about it. Todd, if you want to give any sort of opening comments, go ahead, and then we'll just turn it over to questions from the public.
Thanks, boss. I appreciate it. We also have Mike Moriarty, our code enforcement officer, is on the call as well. Thanks, Mike, for attending. So yeah, just quickly on two things. As it relates to the current order in place, it looks like, as you know, outdoor dining has been allowed. We have an agenda item tonight to pass an emergency ordinance to help assist with that transition to outdoor dining. Lucky for us, a lot of our outdoor dining opportunities are within the shopping centers, and so we're able to work closely with them to help them navigate that during this window of when it was allowed and when we can pass some ordinances to help them transition. The next step for us, as we talked about, is going to be retail, and it looks like if everything continues the way it's going, there's a strong likelihood that indoor retail will open on the 12th of this month. And so we're working as a county to provide the county health official with everything he needs to make that decision. But that looks like that's the way we're trending. So we're working closely with the Chamber of Commerce and the shopping centers and business owners there. And so that's a big, big change. To circle back on what you talked about, Mr. Mayor, there's two parts of our government, right? It's the council who sets policy and really the direction that this town goes in, and then staff. Staff works under the council. And so for me, as we start to have these public conversations, and maybe it's something that I need to be checked on as we go forward and really evaluate, but I've always approached how I am as a leader to work inside out. And so to always make sure that our backyard, our house is clean and operates effectively in all facets. And as we do that, to work outside, to start to have a voice countywide, regionally, statewide, nationally. And so that's how I've always approached myself as the manager, as the police chief. And maybe that's the right way and maybe it's the wrong way. But as we continue this conversation, I just really, I look forward to engaging our community so they understand how we're set up. This starts with culture. It starts with culture in our nation, but it starts culture back home here. And so for us, it's important for the community to know not only the policies and procedures we put in place, how do those come about? What is the process? How do we hire a police officer? What are the standards for our police officers? There's a whole conversation here, and it goes back to culture. And so I'm looking forward to engaging the community. Our police chief is going to engage our community on Thursday. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be similar to how our phone calls are here. He'll actually we're going to start to advertise it. I think we did last night. And so in all three of our communities, Corte Madera, Larkspur, and San Anselmo, which our Central Marin Police Authority serves, and the chief is going to take in questions starting now up until the meeting and during the meeting and really start that engagement. Following that conversation, and again, we'll continue to have it, we're going to have a special police council meeting, probably one of the last 2 Thursdays of this month. The police council is set up by the 3 jurisdictions, 2 council members from Corte Madera, Larkspur, and San Anselmo. It's a police council of 6. We're also inviting every other council member, the remaining 9 council members for the 3 jurisdictions, to attend it, because we think this is a broad conversation. And when you think about the police authority, I've always said the police authority probably has some of the most oversight than any other police department in the nation. And the reason I say that is because you have a body of 3 communities that form the police council. But when matters like this happen, you end up having 4 bodies. You have the police council, San Anselmo, Larkspur, and Corte Madera that are going to have a lot of the same questions. You know, our philosophy of policing, how do we do the things we do? Why do we do them? And I think that's where we are now. We're back here and we're going to have this conversation. I think it's important. And I think we should start it as a joint meeting with all of our leaders in that meeting, and really using it as an opportunity to talk about our practices, our culture, what do we do? So our council and our community can evaluate how we're set up. What have we been doing the last 10 years? Because we're not doing this because this just happened. This is something that we've been doing for decades. And so are we on the right track? And if we're not, where are we not on the right track? And let's have that conversation. Something in policing that you'll hear and that we fully support, not every police agency is trained the same way or has the same culture. And it goes back to how you hire somebody, how you recruit someone, how you retain someone. When someone gets in trouble, who does that investigation? All those things are important to have a conversation, and it needs to be a nationwide standard. It can't be state to state, county to county. It has to be nationwide. In California, we fall under the Peace Officer Standards and Training Standards. And so that's run by the state. They basically dictate how we train, how we hire, how we do everything. And then off of it, we use the Lexipol Policy Manual. And Lexipol Policy is basically, it's a third party. It's experts in policing and community policing, use of force practices. And so when things like this happen 2,000 miles away, immediately those are evaluated from a legal standpoint, from a policing standpoint, from a community standpoint, and recommendations come down real time, like right now. And they're like, hey, we need to do something. This is a problem. If you have it in your policy manual, let's change it. Here's what it should be. Let's have this conversation, and here's how we train. And it's real time. I'll give you guys one example, and then I really don't want to make this about, you know, this is for the chief to talk about, but I just want everyone to know what we're talking about here. And it's the real-time aspect, so you understand how our police department's set up. You all remember the Meserly Bart shooting, where he thought he grabbed his taser, but he grabbed his gun and shot and killed someone of color. And it was a horrible, horrible, should have never happened. And one of the reasons why I say it should have never happened is about a month before that, a lot of us just got our tasers. And so the requirement was 2 hours of taser training, and you can carry it and you can go out on the field and use it and carry it. And what happened was there was an incident in the East Bay, and someone was in handcuffs in the back seat. He started trying to kick out the window. The officer had the taser on their leg on their gun side. And they went to draw the taser, but they used their muscle memory because they've trained only for 2 hours for it, but they've always trained to pull out their gun in training. And they pulled their gun and they shot this person. And right away, Lexipol, and that's one of the reasons why we went to them, said, hey, time out, what are we doing? First of all, 2 hours is not enough. You should not carry it on your gun side. And they stepped back and said, this is how you should carry it. You can't carry it until you have this much training. Here's what we need to do. And so we all implemented it. Bart didn't. And so that's one of the perfect examples as a leader of going, let's make sure that does not happen now. Like, let's not wait till tomorrow. Take those off of all of our officers until we're trained and we know what we're doing. And so as we move forward and you see these examples, that's how we've always approached it. To close, because there's a process and we're going to have this engagement in the right forums, it goes back to what our mayor said. Historically, the town of Corte Madera as a government, both at the council level and your staff level, we've never made statements on a national level, right? We've always focused back home because we thought that was the most important. This just doesn't feel right. It feels almost implicit in what's happening out there. And your mayor and the council felt very strongly and talked to staff and said, we need to have a voice. You know, we're little Corte Madera, population of 10,000, but we need to set the standard. We need to be leaders, and we need to hold, you know, we need to have a voice. And so that statement came down from the council last night. I'm proud of it. And then again, there's a series of things that are going to take place moving forward to have that engagement so everyone understands on an equal level playing field of like how we're set up currently here. And then we can have a discussion. about what we need to do to change if it's necessary, what we need to do to support this national conversation. And so we're looking forward to that. In closing, you have my full leadership team on this call. And so, you know, I'm proud of them. I want you all to know that we're public servants and we know our role and we know our place on this call and in this community. We serve you. We serve you, we provide a service. We take pride in that. And sometimes that means we need to be talked a certain way, that whatever, we serve you. And we jump because you're our community members. We don't jump because something happened 2,000 miles away or because someone filed a complaint against one of us. Like, we serve you. And I think that's the most important thing that I want you all to know. And if you don't feel that way, these conversations are important for me to hear as your leader, to know how are we not serving you well and what is going on, because that's unacceptable. We believe in it, and that's who I've surrounded ourselves with as leaders and public servants. And so anyway, we're looking forward to this conversation and engaging. It is really a crazy time. One of the things that I'm most surprised about is how quickly things change. Like, this has always been here, as the mayor said, and it's always been here, and it's unacceptable, and we need to have a voice and do something and agree. But just 3 weeks ago, with COVID-19, our essential services employees have, you know, not only personally been majorly impacted, but both professionally, and trying to provide a service in our community has come out with just such support of just saying, thank you for being there. Thank you for what you're doing. And what happened thousands of miles away immediately changed that narrative in an instant. And I think it's important to recognize why that happened, but just don't forget that your public servants are human too. And we're trying to serve you and we're trying to do the best job we can. But what we're having now is like a different conversation of almost like, you know, you're hearing defund the police department and, you know, get rid of all these governmental employees. And, you know, the conversation, I've never seen something change so quickly, is what I'm trying to say. And it's really put us on our heels. And so I just ask, you know, if you want to talk to me a certain way, you can talk to me however you want, because I want the emotion, but just please respect my employees on this call, you know, when you engage them, because they serve you and they want to do the right thing. So thank you, everyone. And pass it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks a lot, Todd. So at this time, I would invite any members of the public who are on the line and might have anything they want to ask us about any topic at all. Go ahead and put your hands up and we'll get you on the line here. So looks like Lucinda Smith is the first one with her hand up here. So I'll go ahead and allow Lucinda to talk. Hey, Lucinda.
Hi, good morning, folks. Thank you very much for those comments. Todd, I think they are very well said, and I very much want to support our town government and our wonderful police force. I do think we need to have more engagement, like you said, with the police force, and I'm not sure of what you were talking about. It was mentioned, I guess, last night's meeting about Mike Norton having a conversation with the public, and we having kind of an open meeting like this. That's brand new information. I think it's very welcome. I think it's very necessary, and I very much want to support you all. So let's see if we can't get people to be on the side of the police and understand what they need to do, and that they are humans and that they do have issues that they have to deal with as well. And let's help them with the training that they need to make sure that they don't make these mistakes. I think that's crucial, that there ought to be a great deal of intense training on how to handle difficult situations, because you run into them all the time and they're not going to probably get any easier. So being a real person and knowing your community, and that community knowing you, knowing the officers. Maybe they need to walk a beat. I don't know. It'd be awfully hard in towns spread out like we are, but the engagement, I think, is the important piece. So thank you very much for letting me kind of air my points too.
Thanks a lot, Lucinda. Yeah, that was, you know, spot on. And I think one thing I just want to say, and then I'll let Todd respond, is that, you know, you mentioned, you know, trying to get people on the side of the police. I think that, you know, one of the reasons that I think we're so lucky to live in Corte Madera is that it's that, you know, I think everybody who lives here can feel safe that the police are on our sides. And the whole tragedy of this moment nationally is that that can't really be said about every police officer in every city across the country, right? That's what we're seeing with our own eyes. And I think we're so lucky to live in a town like Corte Madera, in a community like Corte Madera that's served by such a well-trained and professional police department with, the track record that they have. I think it's the tragedy is that this is not a luxury that everybody in our country has, and it's certainly not a luxury. It's a luxury that some people are missing out on account of their race, that's the whole issue, right? That's the systemic racism. But I was just, I was struck by you're talking about the fact that especially in our community, it's the public and the police are on the same team here, and I think that's what's so important. Anyway, Todd, I'll let you respond.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we should hold our officers, start with court. I think as we work our way nationally as a community, I think we start here and go, what is the status of our police department? Like, we all love them, and there's been a great support. I think the chief talked to his officers the other day and said, hey, how much support, what are you getting from the community? Because we've had a group of people on the corner at Central Marin Police Authority basically saying, a lot of negative things as police officers drive out into the community. And so the chief was seeing it, and he was worried about the well-being of his officers. And he asked them, what's the support of the community? And here in Corte Madera, he said about 9 out of 10 people come out of their way to say, hey, we support you. We're with you. We hold you to high standards, but we support you guys. Thanks for what you do. And so that means a lot. But with that said, they carry guns. And so we need to hold them to the highest of standards. And I think they are following the highest of standards, but let's have this public conversation and make sure that you believe that. And if you don't, and there's a shortcoming somewhere, now we can isolate it and we can work on it together as a community, because that's what we do. And so I'm excited about that conversation, and I think it'll only make us better. Again, we're human. I bet everybody on this call can give an example where a police officer made a mistake. We let maybe our ego or the emotions of a situation get the best of us. God knows I've had a series of them. I could tell you some really good stories about that, but I think you need to learn from it and be better. The difference is we're trying to do good, and we recognize when we have our shortcomings, and we're going to share with you as a community what we're going to do to make sure it never happens again. And so I'm looking forward to that. Again, it's going to start. The chief hasn't been on these calls. Again, he's been busy, as you can imagine, but really we wanted to start with a Corte Madera kind of conversation, and then really move it into, let's let the chief, you can hear from him and he can hear from you. And so that's going to start on Thursday. Mr. Mayor, do you know what time that call is? Is it at 9 o'clock?
I don't think I've seen,
okay.
Let me check my schedule here.
We just sent it out last night. Rebecca, do you have the time for that call? And again, we did send it out via next.
It is it's from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We will be posting more about it probably within the next hour, but it was also linked on the statement from the town council that was published last night. It's the second bullet point at the bottom of the page with next steps and how to engage with the community.
Okay. And then following that again, the chief might have a couple calls. It just depends how it goes, and if there's a need, which I think we all agree there is, engagements first and foremost. He'll probably have more of them, and then we're going to take it into a police council meeting, a special police council meeting, but with all of our leaders from all the councils there and our communities, just to have a public discussion and start to talk about it. It'll probably be a 3 or 4 hour robust, open time public conversation about a lot of things. And so it's going to be agendized in a way where a member of the community can give their 3 minutes on any topic within policing, and we can speak to it in real time. And then the council from that conversation can then give direction to staff and the chief to say, hey, here's 5, 6, 7 things we're concerned about. We want you to work on it and come back to us, and continue to have that type of forum over a period of weeks or months, as long as it takes. Which you'll also see at the state and national level. It'll be similar to the Blue Ribbon Commission that was assembled a few years ago. Again, that was a political commission that came together on policing practices. We instituted all those practices. When that came out, you'll see something similar, and hopefully it'll be at the national level. And that's something we'll have a big voice on, and we're going to share that within our county because we believe in it. And so that'll be where you'll also see some police practices that'll be instituted as well. And so, we're looking forward to it. And then for our community, and again, the mayor and the council at our community workshop, I think it was before COVID even happened, Mr. Mayor, if I'm correct, right? It was early April Well, it was in the early stages, but we had a workshop, and one of the major priorities that the mayor and council had was our communication. How do we engage our community? And that's what this call started with, of like, let's use our technology and let's start to engage our community. So we're not doing this because we think we have to. We know we need to. We need to talk. We need to communicate. You need to know who your leaders are and hold us accountable to the highest levels, you know, and be able to reach out and touch us at any point when you have a question and need something. So I think this will only make us better. And I think you'll see the same thing with our police department.
Mr. Mayor, am I still on?
Yes.
How are you going to communicate all this out to the public? Because I wouldn't know about it except I'm on this call, and I wanted to make sure that you know, all of my neighbors and Corte Maderans know about it, because I think it's really important.
Yeah. Somebody's got a phone ringing here. Anyway, yeah, Lucinda, I hear you. So we try and I can list all the ways that we, you know, try and publicize all these meetings and opportunities to get involved and stuff. And then, you know, staff, please let me know if I miss anything. But let's see. So we've got the town newsletter. We post these things on the town website. We've got we post them all on Nextdoor. I generally post them on my council Facebook page. I think we tend to put stuff on the marquee outside the community center. Am I missing any big ones?
Well, Mr. Mayor, in the case of the statement that was published last night, I also asked the Parks and Recreation Department to publish it through their Facebook page, and they did. And it is also posted as a spotlight link at the bottom of our homepage. So I can also share, screen share briefly the invitation to Thursday's chat, and there will also be separate posts about it that are going out shortly, but it was sent out as in conjunction with the statement from the council yesterday.
Right. Okay. So Lucinda, I think that probably the two most reliable ways we have right now to make sure that you're not missing any, or maybe I'll say the three most reliable ways we have right now to make sure you're not missing out on any timely notices of opportunities are, one, you know, check the town's website, you know, every few days or something. There's little on, it's like the lower left section, there's the spotlights. They're like notifications that cycle through. Just take a look at what's showing on there, because generally whenever we've got any opportunities to engage, we put it on there. I would also say, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the town's newsletter. It's our weekly newsletter that goes out every Friday. And I think sometimes it goes out, you know, if there's like a more pressing matter, it'll go out specifically for that matter, like more often than once a week, right, Rebecca? Like, didn't we have I don't know, within the last 2 days? I think you sent one like yesterday about this this particular chat. So so I would say definitely subscribe to the town's newsletter. And then also, I don't know if you're on Nextdoor, but if you are, that's a great place to see everything that the town posts, because Rebecca and Lorraine are really diligent about posting everything important on Nextdoor so that residents on Nextdoor can see it. But also, you know, you, Lucinda, and everybody else on this call, part of this whole communications exercise that we're doing is to figure out what we can do to better put information out there for you guys. So if you have ideas for us, you know, we hear you loud and clear that you know, you're not hearing about the stuff that we're doing. That's the problem. And we want to figure out, please share your ideas with us. If you have ideas, like what would be the best way for you to hear about this? Or like, you know, is there something that we could do differently? So if you've got ideas, please share. We're all ears and we're looking for ideas here.
Thank you very much.
Did you have anything else you wanted to share with us, Lucinda?
No, I'm fine, thank you. I've taken more than my fair share.
No worries, thank you. All right. All right, we've got a good deal of people on the line here, but nobody else has their hands up. So, you know, don't be shy if you got any questions. It doesn't even have to be a question if you just want to give us some feedback. All right, there we go. Jade's got her hand up. Let's get her on here. Hi, Jade.
Hi there. Hi. So these are not questions that I've ever really thought to ask before, but I'm very interested in understanding and concerned about the militarization of our police forces across the country. So I guess I'm curious, like what do our police here in Corte Madera have in their arsenal, and should I be concerned about that? And where are those coming from, and do we need them? And you know, these are all kind of questions coming to my mind as I'm watching national news. So I'm, you know, here just kind of trying to find out, are those discussions we're having in this space, or is that better, you know, to come on that call on Thursday and ask. I know that's kind of a pointed and specific question, but that's where my mind is right now.
Thanks, Jade. And Todd, that's definitely in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, Jade, I think that's how I think it's appropriate. We can talk a little bit about it now, but I think it's exactly what we're going to talk about. And I think it's actually what we talk about over the past 10 years in our public meetings with the police council. And so the call on Thursday with the chief, and as well as in the police council meeting, I think this is absolutely what we're going to talk about. It starts, Jade, with when you talk about it's who you hire. And so what are you looking at it for traits and people? And so when we hire someone, first of all, we bring in, it starts there. Like, you got to bring in the right person, because if you bring in a bad apple, right, it doesn't matter what you have a bad apple and you've got a problem. And so it starts with bringing in people from the outside that both know law enforcement, but also know our community. So you bring in community members, people from the outside that do that initial interview. And then from that, you have internal interviews. The chief will actually interview somebody. And as the chief, and Chief Norton's the same way, you're looking for traits, you're looking for leadership, someone that can communicate, someone that's a public servant, someone that knows what it means to be a public servant, right? Someone that's gonna do the right thing when no one's looking. And when you get past that, then you start the background. The background's a 3-month process, and they go through all avenues of your background. Everything you ever did is part of that check. And then the next piece is a psychological test. And so we're looking for psychological training. Again, everything that we think from the interviews that we saw in the background check, is it being confirmed in a psychological? And then you get a polygraph test, a lie detector test. Are they telling us the truth? And then when you get out of that, you go to the police academy, and then you go to training, and then it's all part of culture. As we bring someone through this, we're always looking, do they understand what it's like to carry a badge and a gun and serve our community? Do they know what's important, like how to do that? And so it starts there. Then when you talk about militarization, you know, something we learned back in some of the Oakland riots of the past, we basically, in our county, we don't use tear gas. We don't have riot batons. We were actually ill prepared to go into other jurisdictions because we didn't have the right equipment to even be on the front lines, because it's just something from a policing standpoint that our community has really struggled with. And so we've heard them and we've made changes. Militarization, you'll see the outer carrier, best carriers of our officers. That's something as a chief of police that I actually approved years ago, and there was a lot of thought that went into it. We had community members that were part of this conversation, and the council ultimately made that call. The reason I did it is because my police officers were getting hurt. They were carrying about 30 pounds of weight on their hips. If you look at all the equipment they have, they were carrying on the hips. They're driving around their cars for 10 or 12 hours. As the years went on, they started to get hurt and injured. And so it showed that those outer carriers, if you do a combination of both, it protects our officers. That's also a ballistic vest. Our officers need to carry ballistic vests because they're targets. I believe, I don't know what the number is, I think it was 80 something officers died last year in the line of duty. And so that's an issue. And the other one is the gun violence across our nation. There has been a lot of active shooters in our schools. There's been a lot of really bad things that we should all be concerned about, and quite frankly embarrassed that we haven't been able to figure this out on the gun control side. And so our officers do carry rifles. They don't bring the rifles out. There's a certain criteria within our policies that they bring that out on. But that's something we should talk about. And again, this is high level. I'm going quickly. This is a 30, 40-minute conversation. And then from that, I think from the community and the council to engage, okay, we heard you. Give us some more examples, and is this something we want to do, and why do you do it? And you have to weigh both sides. But again, this has been something that has gone on in a thoughtful public conversation over the years. And so, no, we don't want a militarized police force, but there's a reason why they carry the things that they do. And we don't carry probably 20% of what some of our cohorts carry in other cities and towns. And it's just because it's a culture thing, and they think it's necessary. Where in Marin County, we don't. But I think that's the core issue. I think we really need to talk about who we hire and why do we have the equipment we have. So Jay, I think you nailed it. That's the core of the conversation.
Thank you both. That was very, very helpful. I look forward to talking about it more.
Yeah, thanks, Jade. And of course, if you have further questions, please join Chief Norton on Thursday morning for his discussion. And you can always reach out separately to me or Todd or Chief Norton. We're all here for you. We serve you. So we're always available.
Thank you. I'll be there Thursday.
Alrighty, thanks a lot, Jade.
Same.
All right, let's see. Looks like Lucinda's hand is back up. I don't know if she had another question or if it's just residual, but I'm gonna unmute her just in case. Hey, Lucinda, did you have something else?
Yes, if it's okay to switch.
Of course.
I'd like to ask Mr. Wolf if he could give a very brief synopsis in very plain language, easy for dummies like me to understand, about the bonus aspect of this hotel rezoning that was done last night or is going to be done tonight. I can't remember which. But could you help me understand exactly what it is without a lot of raw?
I ask him that all the time, Lucinda. Dummy it down for me, Adam.
I want the cliff notes.
Hi, Lucinda, how are you?
Adam.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Great. So Lucinda, you should be, you are, I thought, were actually the one person who actually understood all of this, given that you've been following along with these planning commission meetings and whatnot. But thank you so much for the question and for actually doing your best to understand the hotel ordinance. So the bonus aspect of this really comes down to one simple thing. We are proposing to allow additional building area, so bigger buildings, bigger hotel buildings, in exchange for what we're saying are desired qualities of that construction, which relate to environmental sustainability, design, enhanced design and aesthetics, and site planning. Also aspects related to community integration. So how does that building, what amenities does it offer the community? And then also how is it improving the public realm and public areas of our town? And so it's sort of this, you can call it a bonus or you can call it an incentivization for obtaining higher quality hotel construction in town. The incentive part is that I think there was a recognition early on in this process that our current amount of building that's allowed for hotels doesn't really attract the amount of, it doesn't allow for hotels of sufficient size, essentially, in today's market for hotel development. So we're saying, yes, we understand that. Let's allow for some additional development, but we want to make sure it meets these criteria that I just laid out. And there's also additional other things we've attached to that, but that's as simply as I can put it. And hopefully that's helpful. And if you have any follow-up questions, please let me know.
Okay, so if I understand what you're saying, Adam, is that we're going to give them the ability to build a larger, bigger hotel in our little small community. And we'll give them that if they give us all the good things that we want to have as far as helping the town progress with being a good corporate citizen, if you will, or a good citizen. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's a good way to put it.
Thank you.
And one thing that I'll just add to that is looking at the map of where these proposed changes would take effect. They're in specific, very deliberately chosen locations that are right on the highway, because a lot of these hotels in our community, my understanding is that they tend to serve events not in Corte Madera, but they'll be serving, like corporate events in San Francisco and things like that. So you get a lot of commuters in our local hotels boosting our local economy, but they're hopping right on the freeway and zipping down to San Francisco for work. And then they come back at night back to their hotel room and go to sleep. So it's not, I think it's not as if we would expect any sort of, you know, impacts on traffic or anything like that. And that's the reason that we've put these, you know, zones right near the highway, is so that people have immediate access from their hotel to the highway to get, you know, to and from where they're going, where they're working. And then they can just come back to where they're staying without having to traipse all the way through town on our, you know, smaller roads. So I think it's really strategic in the way it's laid out, and I'm pleased to see that. So that was just, you know, one point that I wanted to add there.
I just didn't want to see us become motel or hotel row along the highway, which cheapens, in my opinion, the whole beauty that we have of the town. We're
Right.
already
Understood.
by the freeway, so to enhance that kind of freeway attachment is concerning.
Yeah, and just to that point, there is a cap on actually the number of times this bonus could be used, to your point. And I think early on in some discussions with the council, they were also concerned about clustering and creating a hotel row. And so there's also anti-clustering provisions in the ordinance that would only allow the bonus. A maximum of 2 hotels could use it in any one of those areas on the map that Mayor Beckman just actually showed you. So there are a lot of thinking behind it and the details of this about the things that you're mentioning right now.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Lucinda. All right. Nobody else has their hands up right now. Come on, guys. You must have something you want to ask about or something you want to tell us.
Hey, boss, I have Ashley. Maybe in the meantime, while people are thinking about it, we have Ashley on the call. Maybe we have her talk about some of the good work being done over there and our parks and some of the summer camp programs potentially coming our way.
That'd be
Ashley,
great.
can you give us a quick update? You've been busy.
Sure. Oh, hold on. Multitasking while listening. We did our Q&A with families that were interested in our summer camp last night. So that was an opportunity to at least speak to a few people that wanted to discuss some of the, some of the concerns with the pricing that we had and just what it would be included, because we are offering a virtual and a in-person camp. So we talked about the different programs and what that looked like, what steps we were following with the guidelines from the county, shared where the guidelines can be found so that parents can read through them and know that we're adhering to each of those. We also had the opportunity to show our two camp directors. So Alex and Shanat had the opportunity to see everybody and speak directly to the questions, and then also say hi to a couple of the kids that wanted to say hello to them and see their faces. So I think it's really great. We had some really good feedback, and we're continuing to finalize our details. Our camps don't start until the 6th of July, so we have a little bit of time, but our registration will open next Monday, so the 15th, and it's going to be a priority registration for 2 days, so essentially the 15th, 16th, and 17th, for essential workers that live or work in Corte Madera, Larkspur, or Greenbrae, and then town employees and residents. And then everybody else is able to register as of 12/01 on the 18th. So right now we are hoping to have a maximum of 60 campers for in-person. We're still waiting for confirmation from Neil Cummins, because we're going to be utilizing their classroom space for controlled environments, access to washing hands frequently, and then using that as a home base for the cohorts of 12 campers. And then obviously programming as much outdoors as we can, because that's the best for our kids that have been cooped up, as well as the health guidelines. Otherwise, we're also working towards trying to establish a way to open up our skate park safely, and that's going to be in line with San Anselmo, so we're waiting for communication with them. And coming next Monday, we're going to be able to open our tennis courts to doubles play. So we're going to be updating our signage. So our tennis players that want to get back on doubles, as well as our pickleball players, they're going to be able to get back there. So it's going to be a nice kind of reminder of a little bit more normal.
Thanks, Ashley.
Any questions?
Thanks a lot. Todd, you're on mute, by the way. There you go.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot, Ashley. That was really helpful. I'm just seeing that the vice mayor is here and has his hand up. So I'm going to go ahead and allow him to talk. And then David, let us know if you want to talk about anything, just because of the Brown Act, if you want to talk about anything related to anything under our jurisdiction on the town council, I'm going to hop off the call. I'm going to take my earbuds out and be unable to hear. So you guys are going to need to wave at me when you're when you're done asking or saying whatever you want to say, and I'll come back. So let's get you on the line here.
This is a question for Ashley, if you can hear
Okay.
me. All right. Ashley, on behalf of an outside organization, I think that this is applicable to probably a lot of different groups that have agreements with Park and Rec for the use of the community center. On behalf of an outside group, put in a contract and a reservation for a September gathering that's almost certainly not going to be able to happen as a result of the COVID rules right now. What is your policy about handling such reservations of the community center? Could we roll that agreement forward to a later month that seems more applicable? Or what would you suggest is the right way to handle agreements to use the community center?
We're open to both options, so rescheduling or just a full refund. And we're trying to reach out to everybody within, at least over a month as we see things kind of reopen. We don't have a timeline of expectations for reopening the community center to rentals yet through the county. So we're kind of taking it on a month-to-month basis. I think we've contacted everybody through July so far. But yeah, it's really up to our renters if they wanted to call us ahead of time. And a lot of them have, because we do have a lot of special events planned here in the hall. So when people call and they want to reschedule or refund, we are doing everything that they want.
That's very flexible. Thank you so much. And I hope that was applicable to other people that you're dealing with out there in the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Boss.
All good?
All good.
Alrighty.
I also wanted to mention, if there's no questions yet, thanks, Ashley. Just an observation that just really made me, we talked about it a little bit at the last call, but just our community of how they've come out and marched and had their voice known and heard, and how they've handled themselves. We had a couple in Larkspur that were downtown Larkspur. We had one, about 200 plus people that walked down Tamil Vista and through our area on Sunday. It just makes me proud of our community, of knowing how important this moment is and being heard and getting out there, but doing it the right way. And I just wanted to mention that. There was a organizer who helped organize one of the Southern Marin protests this past weekend that went very well. And they were looking at doing something in the Central Marin area. Town Park and Redwood High School were two areas being considered. And in talking to the organizer, as I understand it, as of yesterday, they're focused more on Redwood High School right now. And that'll be in the coming days. And as we have more information, we'll put it out to the community so everyone's aware. If you want to be part of that and safely protest or march and be heard, we'll make sure that you know where that's happening. And so that is, I think we should expect something in our area over the next 5 to 10 days, and we'll communicate that with everybody.
That's great. Thanks for letting us know. And again, like you said, I think we've all been really proud watching Corte Madera residents not only, stand in solidarity with people who are rejecting injustice and seeking equality, but doing it peacefully and with resolve, doing it the right way, as Todd said. And I think, that makes us so proud as your leaders to watch. You guys, you lead by example, honestly, and it's inspiring to watch. And we're looking forward to more opportunities for our residents to be able to peacefully express themselves and make sure everybody knows where they stand on these important issues. So, all right, there's no hands up right now. We got about 15 minutes left. If any of our friends on the call here think of anything. Oh, there we go. David's got his hand up. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Hey, David.
Good morning. An informational question. I'd always thought of the intergenerational center as an appendage of the Parks and Recs, and yet it's been uncoupled, and I don't understand what happened there. Was it just my not understanding the relationships, or was there something else?
I appreciate that, David. I'll take that. First of all, I just want to say the concept of the intergenerational center and the work by our volunteers, Patty Stollier, Carla
Yeah.
Condon, and others, have been really, truly amazing. And we all know, we've seen the stories, we've been part of it. I think you touched on one of the core kind of, I don't want to say disagreements, but kind of issues as we try to work towards our partnership between the town and age-friendly solutions as we provided services into the intergenerational center, is that as your town manager, I've always seen it as just as you explained. It's a component of Parks and Rec. We have our outdoor programs, we have our programmings inside our senior and youth programs inside our community center, and then also our community center as a whole. We had a difference of opinion on what that should look like, but we both have the town and age-friendly solutions led by Carla, we both have the same passion of continuing that. And so what I'll tell you is, COVID changed things, but as we come out of the summer, you will see those same types of programs. You'll see them virtually, you'll see them outdoors. Hopefully we can have them indoors. We'll do them safely. You'll see a partnership at some point between our volunteers that are doing the good work, but it may look a little different. And so, this isn't something about ego or, something that we have a difference of opinion on the service. It's just, this is a governmental agency, and you have to follow certain protocol and procedures and really have the governing body of the town council sign off on that. And I'll just give the names. Carla and myself haven't quite gotten there yet. And so we brought a lot of people into the conversation to help us. We're all motivated. Ashley is an outstanding director and problem solver, and has great ideas of providing services. So I don't look at that changing. One of the things that I think might help the conversation is our space is small, right? We renovated it. It used to be office space, and we renovated a few rooms at about $180,000 a cost to the town. And our programs were successful, but it's too small to provide the types of programs we really want to do. And I think being in there, I think you would agree with that on some of those. And so we're looking at actually building some modular space, possibly into Town Park, that gives us bigger space for programming. And so I'm excited about that. We're starting the conversations now at the staff level and with the Park and Rec Commission. So look out for that. And if we are able to get that authority and approval from the council, we want to get that implemented quickly because we think it's a key component to this conversation of the partnership. But again, it's a 3-year conversation, David, and I unfortunately, I think that's the core of the conversation, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I don't think that article was completely accurate in how they framed it. But again, it's for Lorenzo who wrote it. I appreciate he did. It's a hard story to write when it's a 3-year conversation. And so the bottom line is we're completely supportive of that concept. I think the intergenerational concept was part of it, but I've always looked at it as, hey, we provide programs for all ages. It's senior and youth program, it's all ages. And so the intergenerational concept's important, but like nothing's changed. That's always been our mission and scope. And so that's not changing. And I think you'll hear it from Ashley as we move forward when we're excited to get things going, because that's important. And in the meantime, I think those that are isolated, those that really relied on those types of programs, I know Carla's been working on some virtual programming to help with that, and as are we. And we're also staying in touch with our community that really needs that service and that contact daily. So that is not going away. It may look different, but it will not go away.
And I'll just jump in and say real fast, David, I think you're not alone. I think there were a lot of us on all sides of the equation who, when the two parties took a step back, I think we all, a lot of us were like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, everything seems to be going so smoothly from the outside. So the reason that I'm totally confident that we're going to ultimately be able to come back and arrive at a good agreement is that both parties remain completely, the town and Age Friendly remain completely dedicated to providing quality services for residents of all ages. And I think given that we both share the same mission and the same values there, I'm totally confident that, it's not going to be too long before we're able to figure something out and get back to where we were, if not better than before. Anything else we can answer for you, David?
Well, I want to thank you for your elaboration there. I did not read the article, Todd, that you're referring to. I missed that completely. But thank you for bringing me up to date.
Thanks, David.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, David.
Okay. Yeah.
Take care. All right, Barbara Solomon here has her hand up, so I will go ahead and allow to talk there.
Oh yeah, hi.
Hey.
I had to unmute. Yeah, I just wanted to say, of course, I'm as appalled as anybody by the George Floyd murder, and I'm sympathetic with the peaceful protests that are going on all over the country. But I do want to say, just put in a pitch for our Central Marin Police and our local town leadership. I see the Central Marin Police as a real community police force, one that really works with the community and not against individuals or individuals of color. And I agree with Todd, there's a tremendous amount of oversight of the Central Marin Police. And I've lived here in this community for 27 years. And all my interactions with the police, I've been impressed with the individuals, officers, and who do their jobs and work very hard. I also know how very hard all the town employees work. And I know these are hard times and emotional times. And particularly for a lot of young people, it is going to be a time of change. But I do want to say, I just want our local police officers and leaders, and Todd continues to shine as town manager. He used to be former police chief. You guys have your hearts and your minds in the right place. So don't defund the Central Marin Police, please. Just continue your best practices and your vetting of the best officers. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Barbara. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Barbara, for sharing that sentiment. I think, there is so much to be proud of about our Central Marin Police here. And one thing that I just want to highlight is, shortly after George Floyd's murder, one of the first things that Chief Norton did was go and put out what I thought was an incredibly thoughtful and aware statement, just saying, acknowledging that, look, this is unacceptable, and acknowledging that, yeah, this actually does, there's the tendency for incidents like this to really put a tarnish on law enforcement as a profession. And it's I think fair to say that is not always deserved, especially when you've got police officers like we have here in Central Marin. But I just thought that the fact that he went out and just frankly acknowledged the reality of what was going on, especially in the position he's in, I thought that was showing real leadership, real awareness, being accountable. And so I just totally agree with everything you said, and thanks so much for sharing that sentiment.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.
All right, take care.
And if we don't have any questions, boss, I know that RJ has a quick update on the dog park. It looks like it's going to be usable. We'll be able to open it, I believe, in the next week without the benches, and then the benches are going to follow. So you can give an update on that. And then also, as we talked about at our last meeting and on our fire council meeting, our beloved chief, Scott Schertz, is retiring. And his actual last day is going to be on the 15th. He's moving it up. He's excited. He's working his way to Hawaii. And we have our acting fire chief, our fire marshal, Ruben Martin. And so he's going to be taking over for Scott. A great succession plan. We're excited to have him. And I believe Ruben is on the call as well. So welcome, Ruben. And Ruben can speak to any of the work that we're doing right now from a vegetation management standpoint, really going and attacking. We're headed into fire season. And it just seems like all things are coming at us at once. And so a lot going on. But with that, I'll just, RJ, real quick, if you can give us a quick update on the dog park.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go out there, you'll see, most of the concrete's poured. They're starting to finish up some of the plumbing fixtures for the water fountain and the wash station. I think we probably have about a week's left of work other than the benches. So the benches are in back order. That'll likely be at least another month, unfortunately. There was some additional slowdowns due to COVID, but there's an opportunity to open it up prior to that, and just not have the benches yet if that's what the community wants. So yeah, that's a nice new amenity that we hope to be able to deliver to the community pretty soon.
Thanks, RJ. And Ruben, we have 4 minutes left. Is there anything?
Joining us from the car.
Joining us from the car, he's Mobile Command Center. Don't crash. I hope you're pulled over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from my mobile office today. Thank you. you know, as Todd had mentioned, we want to wish Scott Schertz, Chief Schertz, a happy retirement coming up. And I'm excited for the new opportunities to serve as the new fire chief coming into here for the Central Marin Fire Authority and serving the members of Corte Madera. Moving forward, we've got a lot of plans of vegetation management. Half the community received letters that we sent out about 2 weeks ago stating that we're going to be doing defensible space inspections. So if you live anywhere on the western area of our town, basically up Christopher Street Hill and Marina Vista in a Corte Madera grade area, you should be seeing inspectors coming through here in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you for that. And Ruben, you gave some statistics on some of the work the fire department and Marla Orth has been doing from a tonnage removed from the hillside, but also from our emergency routes, the paths that we're working on the clearage. Like there's a certain percentage you gave. Can you update everyone on those two numbers?
Yeah. So as many of you are aware, is since the 2017 fires, we've realized the threat that wildfires have towards Corte Madera. So we partnered with the town fire department and with Marla Orth and to identify which evacuation routes can be cleared by basically removing hazardous vegetation from the roadsides. So by the end of June, we should have approximately 90% of all of the wildland urban interface roadways, which equates to approximately 15,000 cubic yards of chipped vegetation material, which by looking at the numbers, it's huge. But in reality, we're just barely scratching the surface of reducing the amount of fuel loading that's out there.
Thanks, Ruben. Thanks, Chief. And congratulations.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thanks a lot, Ruben. And thank you to Chief Schertz for everything he's done for our community as fire chief. And we're, thanks, Ruben, for everything you've done as fire marshal. And we're looking forward to seeing more of you as acting chief. All right. We've got just a couple minutes here. David's hand is still up, so I'm going to go back to him and just see if he had anything he wanted to add. Hey, David, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up?
No, sorry, I don't know. I didn't raise my hand.
No problem.
Thank you for asking.
Sure thing. No worries.
Sure,
and then Lucinda's got her hand up too, so we'll go back to her real fast here.
Hi.
Hey, Lucinda.
Are you going to continue to have these meetings on Tuesday at 11?
At some point, the time is probably going to change as the shelter in place winds down and more people are going back to work during the day, because we want to try and find the time that's going to be able to catch the most people. But I do think we're all in agreement that the concept of having this weekly public Q&A check-in is really important and really valuable. So that I think is definitely going to stay.
Well, I commend you for doing it because it is very helpful, and I think that it's difficult to do at the council level because you only have 3 minutes, and you have to stand up and speak in front of everybody. And this way, I'm speaking to 3 gentlemen that look very handsome on the monitor, and it takes a lot of the fear of public speaking out of it. So I think you'll get more interaction from people. I'm hoping. Okay.
Totally.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Lucinda. Yeah, and it's such a better format because when people come and give public comment at the town council meetings, we're not allowed. We're legally barred from responding. Getting into substance of anything that's under our jurisdiction that's not on the agenda. So you end up with people who come and they have something they want to talk about, and they got their 3 minutes to give their comments, speak their mind, and then we're not allowed to respond, and that's not what they want, and that doesn't feel good to anybody. So I think we're all really glad that we've got this public forum for people to come. It's like hour-long public comment basically, except we're actually allowed to respond. So I think it's a win for everybody. And with that, it is 12 o'clock now, so we're going to wrap up here. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Thank you all for your questions and comments, and we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday for our Q&A check-in.
All right, thanks, everyone. Thanks, team.